Welcome back to everyone already subscribed to Expose Cheaters by NDU Tale. Thank you. Your time, trust, and your comments keep this community alive. As you listen, share your thoughts, feelings, and lessons below, so we can learn together. Settle in. The truth and the twist are coming. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my wife ever did was call the police to have me arrested using lies she rehearsed while sleeping beside me for years. She looked me in the eyes that morning and smiled, knowing I would be handcuffed before sunset. She didn't scream or cry or beg. She planned. She weaponized the law against a man who trusted her completely. She wanted my reputation destroyed, my freedom questioned, my voice silenced. That betrayal alone could have ended me, but the truth behind it was worse. Here's how it happened, step by step, and I survived long enough afterward. At the time, I believed our marriage was strained but salvageable, like a cracked wall that needed honest repairs. We argued about money, time, and distance, nothing unusual or explosive. She complained I worked too much. I complained she had changed. We hired a nanny to help with our child, and I thought that decision brought peace. What I didn't know was that my absence created opportunity. While I was focused on providing stability, my wife was rehearsing a different future. One where I was a problem, and she was the victim in a story she carefully controlled from everyone. The nanny came highly recommended, quiet, observant, and professional, the kind of person adults forget is present. She arrived early, left on time, and rarely spoke unless asked. I barely noticed her, which I later realized was my mistake. My wife noticed her, though not as help as background, someone invisible enough to witness everything. Late nights became common. My wife said she was meeting friends or working late. I never checked. Trust makes you careless. Meanwhile, another man was entering my home confidently, wearing authority like armor, while plotting my removal without hesitation or guilt whatsoever at all. Before this gets any deeper, pause for 1 second. If you've ever trusted the wrong person or felt something was off but ignored it, hit the like button right now. This story takes a turn you won't see coming, and the truth hasn't even started unraveling yet. I first sensed something wrong the day my wife casually asked what would happen if the police ever came to our house. The question felt random, but her tone was curious, almost amused. She followed it with another question about my work schedule and whether I kept records of my movements. I answered honestly, joking about paranoia. She laughed, but her eyes didn't. I didn't know she was gathering information, rehearsing scenarios, and aligning timelines. To her, this wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a chessboard, and she was positioning pieces carefully while hiding her affair in plain sight daily. The arrest happened on an ordinary afternoon, which somehow made it more humiliating. I was leaving work when a patrol car pulled in behind me, lights flashing casually. People stared. The officer approached with practiced calm, calling my name like we were acquainted. He told me my wife had filed a report. Domestic threat. False statements I barely understood. Handcuffs clicked, cold and final. I searched his face for doubt and found none. He wasn't confused or cautious. He was confident. At the station, I waited alone, shocked, replaying every argument, wondering how love twisted into this without warning whatsoever. My wife never came to the station, not that night or the next morning. She didn't answer my calls or messages. Silence was her strategy. I later learned she told friends she was scared of me. That lie spread faster than the truth ever could. Meanwhile, I sat in a holding room, stripped of dignity, wondering how quickly a life could collapse. I thought about my child, about my job, about headlines that never needed facts to destroy a man. I was released pending review, but the damage was already spreading quietly through rumors, whispers, and deliberate isolation everywhere fast. The call from a nanny came late that evening, just as I was sitting in my empty living room. Her voice was hesitant, apologetic, like she feared crossing a line. She asked if I was safe first. That alone told me something was wrong. Then she said she needed to tell me the truth, even if it cost her job. She explained she'd seen the officer before, inside my house, not in uniform, not professionally. She had assumed he was family. He wasn't. He was familiar in another way entirely, and their intimacy was unmistakably intentional to anyone watching. She described nights when I was away, how the officer arrived confidently and stayed too long. He used the back entrance. He laughed loudly. He called my wife by a nickname I'd never heard. The nanny overheard conversations about timing, reports, and how people in authority could make problems disappear. She didn't understand everything then, but she felt something was wrong. When she saw my arrest on the news, the pieces locked together instantly. Fear kept her quiet at first. Guilt pushed her to call me anyway. She said she couldn't stay silent anymore despite risks to herself and livelihood. With her permission, I recorded the call and contacted a lawyer immediately. The nanny shared dates, times, and descriptions that matched police records perfectly. Door camera footage I forgot existed suddenly mattered. Messages my wife never deleted surfaced. Everything she thought was invisible became evidence. Internal Affairs opened an investigation quietly, then aggressively. The officer who arrested me was suspended within days. My wife panicked, calling me nonstop the first time since my arrest. I didn't answer. The truth was finally speaking for itself, and I refused to interrupt it with emotions, fear, or misplaced compassion from me again. The fallout was swift and devastating. The officer was arrested, exposed for abusing his authority, and conspiring to file false charges. My wife's story collapsed under evidence she couldn't explain away. Friends vanished. Apologies arrived too late to matter. Charges against me were dropped completely, but the stain lingered. My marriage was over, not because of betrayal alone, but because of calculated cruelty. Before leaving, the nanny quit quietly. She told me the truth always finds a witness, even when the guilty believe they've erased every trace. I stood alone, free, chained forever by events I never imagined surviving this intact. After the investigation began, my name slowly cleared across channels. Lawyers explained the damage would linger despite evidence proving innocence. I returned to work feeling watched, judged, and permanently altered. Co-workers whispered apologies, unsure whether proximity might contaminate them socially. My child asked why people stared when we walked together. I struggled explaining betrayal without poisoning innocence or transferring bitterness. Meanwhile, my wife hired attorneys, denying everything while evidence mounted. She claimed misunderstanding, coincidence, and malice from investigators seeking headlines. Her confidence cracked when confronted with synchronized timestamps and recordings. I watched quietly, realizing patience had become my strongest defense. Court hearings followed. Sterile rooms where truth competed against performance. My wife avoided my eyes, projecting fear whenever cameras appeared. The officer refused responsibility, claiming personal relationships never influenced decisions. Investigators dismantled that claim using policies, messages, and testimony records. I testified once, carefully, answering only what evidence already supported. Reliving events felt exhausting, but silence allowed lies to flourish. Friends returned slowly, embarrassed by earlier distance and disbelief shown. Some relationships never recovered, casualties of suspicion and uncomfortable uncertainty. I learned forgiveness differs from reconciliation, requiring boundaries and accountability. Justice progressed slowly, but momentum finally favored facts over narratives. During proceedings, the nanny provided sworn testimony despite intense intimidation. She described patterns, entrances, jokes, and conversations corroborating digital trails. Defense attorneys attempted character attacks, implying motives of revenge alone. The judge intervened, warning against speculative harassment without substantiated evidence. Watching her courage humbled me more than any apology could. I thanked her privately, acknowledging risks she accepted to speak. She said silence enables abuse, especially when power discourages witnesses. That sentence reframed everything I endured, including lingering shame afterward. Media interest faded once complexity replaced scandal-friendly simplicity within narratives. I focused on rebuilding routines, stability, and trust with children. Divorce proceedings began, revealing financial manipulations hidden throughout marriage years. Accounts were drained strategically. Debts accumulated under my name alone. I felt anger rise, tempered by determination to document everything. Forensic accountants traced transactions matching affair timelines perfectly with precision. Her explanations shifted constantly, contradicting earlier sworn statements during hearings. The officer pleaded separately, seeking reduced charges through cooperation agreements. He admitted relationship and influence, confirming conspiracy beyond doubt clearly. Hearing that admission felt surreal, validating nightmares once dismissed entirely. I refused vengeance fantasies, choosing lawful resolution and closure instead. The judge issued orders protecting assets and prioritizing child welfare. Life outside court demanded adjustment, patience, and intentional healing daily. Therapy helped untangle guilt, anger, and misplaced self-blame from trauma. I learned trauma disguises itself as vigilance, mistrust, and fatigue. Slow routines rebuilt safety. Meals, walks, bedtime stories together nightly. My child regained laughter, a barometer measuring genuine recovery again. Co-parenting negotiations remained tense, monitored carefully by mediators assigned officially. I insisted communication stay documented, minimizing manipulation opportunities going forward. Boundaries became essential tools, not punishments, preserving mental stability long-term. Friends supported quietly, respecting privacy rather than feeding drama cycles. Each uneventful day felt like progress we're defending fiercely now. Sentencing approached, and anxiety returned despite favorable outcomes anticipated previously. I feared loopholes, technicalities, and influence resurfacing unexpectedly again later. Prosecutors assured safeguard existed, transparency preventing interference during proceedings entirely. The officer received prison time, losing badge permanently and pension. My wife faced penalties, restrictions, and supervised visitation mandated legally. Hearing sentences brought relief mixed with sorrow for wasted years. I mourned the marriage I thought existed once faithfully shared. Accountability mattered more than punishment, restoring balance within broken systems. Public apologies never came, but truth remained documented officially forever. I accepted closure arrives imperfectly, requiring ongoing resilience and courage. Moving forward meant redefining identity beyond victimhood and survival narratives. I pursued hobbies abandoned, reclaiming curiosity and joy again intentionally. Exercise rebuilt confidence, reminding me strength persists despite betrayals endured. Community volunteering grounded perspective, connected me to service and humility. I spoke carefully about my experience when asked publicly sometimes. Sharing selectively prevented re-traumatization while offering cautionary lessons to others. Trust rebuilt slowly through consistency, transparency, and time alone together. I no longer equated kindness with naivety or weakness again. Vigilance balanced openness, protecting peace without bitterness toward anyone else. Healing proved nonlinear, yet undeniably real over time, measured daily. Years later, the case still surfaces occasionally within legal discussions. I answer briefly, declining sensational retellings that invite distortion again. My priority remains protecting my child's sense of safety always. I teach boundaries, honesty, and courage through example every day. We discuss fairness, consequences, and speaking truth even when afraid. I emphasize institutions work best when accountability exists consistently enforced. Authority demands oversight, not blind trust from citizens, families, communities. This lesson came painfully, but it endures within my life. I remain grateful to the witness who spoke when needed. Courage can arrive quietly, changing everything for the better forever. If this happened to you, if someone used lies, power, or authority to try to destroy your life, tell me in the comments. Would you have stayed silent or spoken up like the nanny did? I read every comment, and your voice matters here. Sometimes I imagine alternative endings that never occurred without truth. Those thoughts fade when I recognize survival required witnesses. Timing, luck played roles, but integrity mattered more than schemes attempted. I document lessons privately, guiding future decisions with humility intact. Romantic trust now requires patience, verification, and alignment over time. I reject cynicism, choosing cautious optimism instead about people generally. Love should never fear scrutiny or daylight from partners, communities. Secrecy enables harm. Transparency nurtures safety and mutual respect consistently. I hold space for anger without letting it rule me. Balance remains my compass moving forward through life's complex seasons. Looking back, the arrest marked an ending and a beginning. It stripped illusions, exposing character under pressure and intent clearly. My spouse chose cruelty. A witness chose truth despite risk. I chose perseverance, trusting processes while guarding heart and future. The system faltered, then corrected through courage from unexpected places. Justice felt imperfect, but meaningful enough to restore dignity, hope. My life continues quieter, sturdier, intentional than before, by design. I carry scars without shame, lessons without bitterness into tomorrow. When asked what saved me, I answer honestly every time. The truth spoke, and someone brave listened when it mattered. After the legal dust settled, silence filled spaces once dominated by chaos. I realized how noisy survival had been, constant alerts and guarded thoughts. Peace felt unfamiliar, almost suspicious, requiring conscious acceptance each day. I resisted the urge to fill quiet moments with distractions or explanations. Instead, I allowed reflection, revisiting memories without rewriting them defensively. Some nights brought anger unexpectedly, sharp and exhausting, demanding attention. Other nights brought gratitude, steady and grounding, easing tension gradually. I learned emotional recovery mirrors physical healing, unpredictable yet progressing. No apology can undo harm, but understanding softened edges. Acceptance became my practice, repeated daily without shortcuts. Financial recovery demanded discipline, transparency, and patience rebuilding stability. Legal fees drained savings once intended for shared futures. I created budgets carefully, tracking progress instead of mourning losses. Every payment symbolized reclaiming autonomy stolen through deceit. Work opportunities expanded slowly as trust returned among colleagues. I embraced accountability publicly, refusing defensiveness or bitterness. That openness surprised many, disarming suspicion more effectively than arguments. My supervisors acknowledged resilience, offering leadership roles requiring integrity. Responsibility felt different now, weighted by awareness of consequences. I approached decisions thoughtfully, considering impacts beyond immediate outcomes. Growth followed responsibility naturally, restoring confidence and professional respect. Dating crossed my mind occasionally, though hesitation tempered curiosity. I questioned my instincts, revisiting red flags previously ignored. Therapy reframed this as wisdom, not damage or fear. I learned healthy skepticism protects vulnerability without closing possibilities. Friends encouraged patience, reminding me that healing unfolds individually. I focus instead on friendships, strengthening bonds neglected during marriage. Shared laughter felt revolutionary after years of tension. Trust rebuilt socially before romantically, grounding emotional expectations realistically. When interest appeared, I communicated boundaries openly, prioritizing honesty. That clarity filtered intentions quickly, preserving peace earned through hardship. I discovered contentment existed independently from romantic validation. My relationship with my child deepened profoundly through shared adversity. We communicated openly, age-appropriate, fostering trust and emotional literacy. I listened more, corrected less, and learned from the curiosity displayed. Routines became rituals, grounding us amid external uncertainties. Morning breakfasts, evening walks, weekend projects built consistency. I apologized when wrong, modeling accountability without shame. That humility strengthened our bond more than authority ever could. School counselors noted increased confidence and resilience visibly. Pride surfaced quietly, unannounced, witnessing growth from safety provided. Parenthood reframed purpose, anchoring life beyond personal vindication alone. Occasionally, memories resurfaced unexpectedly, triggered by uniforms or sirens. My body reacted before logic intervened, heart racing briefly. Grounding techniques helped, reminding me danger had passed. Trauma imprints linger, but they do not define outcomes permanently. I shared these experiences selectively, avoiding dramatization or re-traumatization. Support groups validated reactions, normalizing physiological responses to betrayal. Hearing similar stories contextualized my pain within systemic issues broader. Abuse of authority harms trust collectively, not individually alone. Advocacy emerged organically, educating others about rights and documentation. Empowerment replaced helplessness gradually, restoring agency once stripped violently. Professionally, I transitioned into roles emphasizing ethics and oversight. Experience sharpened judgment, recognizing vulnerabilities within organizational structures. Colleagues sought counsel, valuing perspective forged through adversity. I contributed policies promoting transparency and whistleblower protections actively. Leadership recognized authenticity, entrusting me with sensitive responsibilities. Success felt quieter now, detached from ego or validation. Achievement aligned with purpose rather than status. This alignment sustained motivation even during challenging negotiations. I rejected shortcuts, remembering consequences of compromised integrity firsthand. Integrity became non-negotiable, shaping decisions regardless of convenience or pressure. Career satisfaction stemmed from alignment, not compensation alone. My ex-wife faded into distance, constrained by consequences chosen. Communication remained limited, monitored, strictly functional regarding child matters. I resisted curiosity about her life, recognizing boundaries preserved peace. Forgiveness occurred privately, releasing resentment's grip gradually. Forgiving did not excuse actions or invite reconciliation. It restored internal balance, redirecting energy toward growth. Occasionally guilt surfaced uninvited, questioning my responsibility. Therapy clarified responsibility lies with choices, not trust extended. Trust is not weakness. Exploitation defines character. Accepting that truth freed lingering self-doubt. I reclaimed compassion without self-sacrifice or naivety. The nanny remained a quiet presence within our lives occasionally. We exchanged updates, mutual respect cemented through shared ordeal. She relocated, pursuing opportunities unburdened by fear. Her bravery inspired ongoing gratitude expressed consistently. I honor her example by supporting ethical initiatives publicly. Witnesses need protection, encouragement, and belief. Silence thrives where fear dominates. Truth needs allies. This lesson informed how I responded when others confided concerns. I listened attentively, withholding judgment, validating courage shown. Being believed matters profoundly during vulnerable disclosures. I vowed never to dismiss quiet warnings again. Time softened sharp edges, though memory retained clarity. I no longer replayed events obsessively, trusting narrative stability. Truth endured documentation, testimony, and lived experience. I archived records securely, symbols of lessons learned. Letting go felt intentional, not forgetful. I acknowledged grief for lost years without romanticizing pain. Grief honored reality, enabling forward movement authentically. New goals emerged organically, shaped by values clarified through hardship. I invested energy into health, education, and community engagement. Life regained momentum without urgency or desperation. Purpose guided pace, preventing burnout or reckless pursuit. Ultimately, survival transformed into stewardship of wisdom gained. I carried the responsibility to apply lessons constructively. Betrayal taught discernment. Justice restored balance. Healing required patience. I measure success through stability, integrity, and relationships nurtured. Chaos no longer dictates reactions or decisions. I remain vigilant without paranoia, open without exposure. This equilibrium defines resilience earned, not gifted. My story lacks dramatic revenge, yet holds profound triumph. Truth prevailed through ordinary courage from unexpected witnesses. That remains my enduring takeaway, shaping future choices intentionally. I move forward grounded, grateful, and unafraid of quiet strength. The final court documents arrived quietly, without ceremony or audience. I read them slowly, absorbing permanence contained within the official language. Words like concluded, resolved, and finalized carried unexpected weight. Closure is rarely dramatic. It arrives understated, demanding recognition. I filed the papers carefully, symbolic acts of order reclaiming chaos. That night, sleep came uninterrupted for the first time in years. Dreams returned, unthreatening, ordinary, restorative. Morning felt lighter, unburdened by anticipation or dread. I brewed coffee deliberately, savoring routine. Normalcy felt earned, not assumed, and deeply appreciated. Neighbors eventually stopped whispering when I passed. Familiar smiles returned, tentative at first, then sincere. Reputation repairs itself slowly through consistency, not explanations. I resisted urges to justify myself repeatedly. Truth required no defense once established firmly. Community trust rebuilt through presence and reliability. I attended events again, participating without fear of judgment. Conversations shifted toward ordinary topics, restoring belonging. I realized isolation had been both imposed and internalized. Re-engagement required courage equal to confrontation. Belonging healed wounds I didn't realize still lingered quietly. I revisited places avoided during the ordeal deliberately. The police station, courthouse, and former neighborhood resurfaced memories. Each visit reclaimed emotional territory previously surrendered to fear. I breathed through discomfort, reminded myself of present safety. Reclaiming space restored confidence eroded by trauma. Avoidance shrinks worlds. Confrontation expands them again. I learned resilience involves returning without resentment. These acts felt symbolic, affirming agency regained. I left each location lighter, victorious quietly. Fear diminished through exposure, not suppression. This practice strengthened self-trust, anchoring future responses calmly. Mentorship opportunities emerged unexpectedly, aligning with newfound perspective. Younger colleagues sought guidance navigating ethics and personal boundaries. I shared lessons without dramatizing suffering or assigning blame. Storytelling became educational rather than confessional. Listening mattered more than instructing. I encouraged documentation, transparency, and intuition validation. Authority should invite scrutiny, not blind loyalty. These conversations felt purposeful, transforming pain into preventative insight. Impact replaced bitterness, generating meaning beyond self. Mentorship reinforced growth, proving experience valuable beyond survival. Teaching solidified lessons, embedding them permanently within identity. Celebrations became quieter, centered on presence rather than performance. Birthdays, milestones, and achievements shared intentionally. I prioritized experiences over appearances. Joy resurfaced gently, unforced, authentic. Laughter returned without edge or vigilance. I noticed beauty in mundane moments previously overlooked. Perspective sharpened appreciation for simplicity. Life felt expansive again, not constrained by suspicion. Gratitude replaced entitlement naturally. I acknowledged fragility without fearing it. Happiness became sustainable through balance and awareness. The steadiness surpassed fleeting highs once chased desperately. Occasionally, people asked whether I regretted trusting my spouse. I answered honestly. Trust itself wasn't a mistake. The mistake was ignoring discomfort to preserve illusion. Trust requires discernment, not blindness. Healthy relationships welcome accountability and questions. I learned intuition whispers before crises shout. Listening earlier might have shortened pain, not prevented betrayal. Responsibility remains shared unevenly. This clarity prevented bitterness, fostering compassion for self. Regret transformed into insight, guiding future decisions. I released self-judgment, embracing growth rather than punishment. The system's correction restored faith cautiously, not naively. Failures acknowledged strength and resolve for oversight. I participated in forums addressing abuse of authority. Constructive criticism replaced anger-driven rhetoric. Solutions emerged through collaboration, policy refinement, and accountability. Progress requires engagement, not withdrawal. My experience contributed context others lacked. That contribution mattered more than personal vindication. Civic participation restored agency stolen initially. I understood democracy depends on courageous participation. Silence enables harm. Involvement fosters resilience collectively. This realization expanded responsibility beyond personal narrative. Years later, the story exists as memory, not identity. It informs choices without defining character. I carry lessons lightly, accessible when needed. Triggers rarely surface. And when they do, manageable. Healing doesn't erase, it integrates. I honor endurance without glorifying suffering. Life remains imperfect, yet trustworthy again. Future uncertainties feel navigable. Confidence stems from adaptability, not control. I trust myself to respond appropriately. That trust anchors peace deeper than circumstances. Resilience proved renewable, strengthened through adversity rather than depleted. My child grew older, understanding the truth gradually and safely. We discussed justice, integrity, and courage openly. I emphasized resilience over revenge. Witnessing maturity blossom validated choices made. Parenthood became legacy building rather than survival management. I modeled vulnerability responsibly. Honesty strengthened trust between us. I watched pride replace fear in their posture. This outcome mattered more than courtroom victories. Raising someone secure completes the healing cycle. Their confidence reflected stability restored. That achievement surpassed all else in significance. Looking forward, I carry gratitude rather than resentment. Gratitude for truth, courage, and unexpected allies. The betrayal ended a chapter, but authored wisdom. I lived deliberately, anchored in values clarified through loss. Peace arrived through perseverance, not avoidance. I remain open, yet discerning. Strong, yet compassionate. The cruel act meant to erase me failed. Instead, it revealed character, resilience, and truth. I survived with integrity intact. That survival defines victory more than punishment ever could. My story ends not with bitterness, but with earned peace. The bravest person in this story wasn't the man arrested. It was the one who spoke up when staying silent felt safer. Would you have done the same? If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Subscribe for real stories where truth survives betrayal and silence is broken. Share this with someone who needs to hear that courage, especially the quiet kind, can change everything.